Chris, raise your glass.
Oh yeah. So we are aware that the guest is here. We'll join in a second. What does this look like?
It looks like
Healthy.
I don't even. It looks like salt water. Is that water with like? Salt
It's
in
water
it?
with like a lemon thing in
He
it. But it's
doesn't
got
have
like
a spicy mind. That's
No, he
something
doesn't.
that I
He
get it
doesn't.
with Tausif. That's why he doesn't want to swear on this episode. And this is something that I admire to you, Tausif. Like you see this kind of stuff right now, and you say this is salt water. Chris and I, at the same
Salty
time, we
something,
said this
that's
is
for
a very
sure.
healthy guy.
All right. So are we ready?
I believe we already start.
Okay.
No.
So yeah, I
I'm
know
gonna
that. I
keep
mean,
that.
I'm ready
I'm
for
gonna
our,
keep that.
for our
Yeah,
guest.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
keep that. I'm gonna
You
keep
should.
that on the intro. I don't know about
You
the
should.
guest. I hope he's not, he doesn't have a problem with that. But
Oh,
we're
we'll
gonna
s-
have
we'll soon
more than
find
an
out.
hour talking with him. Then.
All right.
We'll ask him.
Hit us. Hit us
All
first.
right. So I've got two clues for you. Today we have another.
Oh wait.
Canadian.
We need to do an intro first.
Do we? Okay.
No,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. Okay. Who is gonna do the intro?
Do we
No
need
one?
to do an
wanna
intro?
do
I
it?
thought we kind of just started it. I like
Ah.
it that we just start it on the cuff. You know, think?
Okay. We don't
Yeah?
have to say welcome to CreativeLess podcast.
No, we don't.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
everyone knows where they are
Okay,
by
yeah.
now.
Let's
Let's
skip
start.
it.
Let's start.
Yeah,
with
all
it.
right,
go.
all right. So two clues
Hit us.
today. The first one, he just crossed over 10 million views. Big congratulations to him. Today we have another Canadian, and he goes by a different name to what he's actually called on his channel.
It has to be Dunna. Has to be Dunna did it.
The coffee drinker, right?
Or
like
or,
it wasn't those.
or Gerald Undone.
Gerald and Dan. 10 million. It's
No,
okay.
he probably has
Second
more.
question.
I-
Second
actually, I
question.
don't know.
Second question. Let's go. Second question.
That was both. That was actually three clues.
Okay, 10 million. That was the
Yep.
first one.
10 million.
Mm-hmm.
Different
And-
name.
Different name.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one.
Canadian.
He's Canadian.
Okay, it's either Gerald or Dunna. Dunna. Let's go with Dunna. Tausif, what do you say?
Let's turn on the camera, Mr. Guest, and
Sure.
find
Let's see.
out.
we got
what's
it.
up?
What's up, fellas?
What's up, Dunna?
How
I
are
like
you?
the
How's it
mustache.
going?
The mustache.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah, that's.
I every time I shave my scruff, I stop at this point and I think, is this the time? Is this the one where I'm actually gonna like wear this in public?
You actually look like to me a guy from Narcos. Have you guys seen Narcos?
Yes.
Yes.
Everybody has a
Look
mustache
like that?
on that show, though.
Yes.
Could be
Wow.
anybody.
Yeah, you could be
That's true.
anybody.
Yeah. It looks thick.
Awesome.
Is it itchy?
No.
No?
This is itchy.
Yeah.
This gets itchy, but the mustache, I don't know. I think I was born to have a mustache because first of all, it grows in better than everything else. Like everything else, like there's some patchy spots, and if it's not a certain length, it doesn't look great. But the mustache, for whatever reason, is just it's meant to do it. And I can do.
Have you thought? Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
I can
you
do this.
should.
Yeah, I used to have some mustache wax around, but I can't find it anymore. So I got to get some new stuff. But
You
Okay,
should
that's
do
a great
do
look.
it.
That's
you
a
should
great
have
look.
a character in your videos, and the character is just you with the turned up mustache.
And
Yes.
a Dali.
I've been doing that lately. I've
And
been
you're
doing
like a train
black shirt
conductor.
Dunna and white shirt Dunna. So one of them I need to add
Yes.
a third character with
Yes.
the turned up mustache.
The Dali hat.
Suspicious Dunna.
This is suspicious.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being here today, Dunna. We appreciate it.
Of
Our
course, my
second
pleasure.
official guest. How are you? How's life?
Life is very busy. At the start of the year, I went into the full time, as I think we've had a chat about, Chris. I went into full time YouTube and kind of switched over. So my other job as a audio engineer, music producer, was always full time, and then YouTube was kind of the part time thing that I got like 1.5 days a week to kind of work on it. And I basically switched them. So I'm still doing my audio work and stuff, but now YouTube has kind of taken the front seat, and it's been really interesting. It's a very different job
for sure.
to try and organize, and you have to be a self-starter, and you have to be willing to be the only person on your team for a while until you can sort that out. And yeah, so it's interesting right now, and there's lots on the go. It's especially this week. This is a bit of a nuts one.
Lots of things coming then, I guess. Products.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah. First of all, I've got like, I mean, like Sony released those little lenses yesterday,
Oh, yeah.
and I have them, but I only got them 3 days ago, so I didn't have a chance to use them before the embargo. I've got the Tamron 70 to 180. I've got the Sigma 27 or 28 to 70 right now, and like I've got everything. I've got the A1 with the 50 millimeter f1.2. Like everybody all at the same time was like, "Hey, do you want loaner stuff?" And I was like, "Well, no, I actually
Can I have it for 6 months?
Yeah, I actually told my contact at Sony, I was like, hey, can we like just push it to like the first or second week in April? Like just give me a second to get through everything. But they, you know, they have a bunch of layers of people, and it's like one person has to tell the other person has to tell the other person. So by the time that I got to get back to my person and say like, hey, like, can we push this back? I had already received the email that was like, hey, so-and-so has sent you a package and it'll be there tomorrow. And I was like,
Nice.
okay, I guess it's coming. I will figure this out. And the chances are in 2 weeks I'll have to send them an email and be like, hey, pretty please, can I get an extension on my loan so I can keep playing with this? But
so I can send them to Chris, Tausif, and Emilio, something like that, maybe. But you know, for people that they are listening right now or they're watching on the podcast, on the video version of the podcast, Dunna definitely did it, and he did an amazing job through, I think, the past 2 years, to be more precise. And if you go back and see Dunna, what he did, the amazing work that he did with sound and audio, you would say this is a great musician, a great audio engineer and stuff that you watch after you deep dive inside your channel and see what you did before this YouTube channel. But let me ask you, besides that Dunna did an amazing job, who is Dunna?
Yeah, geez. I guess.
Damn,
I mean,
that's deep.
Yeah, it is.
That's why I got this serious voice right now.
Yeah. That's you put on the serious voice to ask the serious questions. Well, let me tell you about Dunna.
Finally,
You sound like Batman.
Maybe. I mean, have you ever seen me and Batman in the same place?
That's true.
You know?
Very true.
I'm definitely not rich enough to be Batman. Yeah, I mean, I think I always thought of myself as a musician first. So that was like, straight out of high school, I went to recording school. Originally, I wanted to be a radio host. That was kind of the dream. And when I went to my like high school guidance counselor, the person that's supposed to like help you figure out where you're going to go to college and all that kind of thing, she gave me this pamphlet for this recording school. I don't think really understood what I was asking for when I said I wanted to be a radio personality. And so she gave me this recording school thing, and I had been into music and played music throughout high school and stuff, and it was kind of this light bulb moment that was like, oh, like I can do that for a living. I could like record bands and make music and get into audio and stuff. And so it was like immediate switch, no longer interested in the radio, like immediately wanted to go to this recording school. So I did. And so I went to out in closer to where Chris is now, out in London, Ontario, and went to school out there for a couple of years and came back to Alberta, went to more school, more college for a diploma in music with a major in drum performance, and then another one with a major in music composition. So I have these fancy 3 diplomas all in kind of music and recording and that kind of stuff. And then eventually I started my own recording studio with it's a music school and recording studio. It's called Resonate Music here in Edmonton, and that's what I've been doing for the past. When did we open? 2011 or something like that? Almost 10 years, I guess.
Wonderful. Don't say that. Keep a little bit of years behind. Let's say 4 years. No?
Yeah. There you go. So yeah, I've been doing that for a long time, and then somewhere along the way, I decided that I needed something outside of the music stuff. Like as anyone who has tried to make their passion and their creative outlet into their job will know, eventually, especially if you are responding to clients a lot, the projects aren't your own projects. So what I needed was a project for my own, and I picked up a camera and really wanted to vlog. I was just like, I'm going to vlog. I'm going to keep the music side out of it so that I kind of have some separation between the two. So I wasn't necessarily vlogging about the studio or anything like that. I did have a couple where there were like some interesting projects, and I wanted to try and see what that would be to show it off. But so I started vlogging, and then eventually I started talking about camera stuff in the vlogs, and I got really nerdy about camera stuff, and I just couldn't stop myself from talking about it. And then my channel turned into me just talking about it all the time. And I stopped vlogging basically altogether. So that's, I mean, me in a nutshell: husband, cat dad, mustache.
Perfect. And if
the last couple of weeks,
it might be cliche, but may I ask what Dunna did?
All sorts of stuff. Whatever, the name Dunna. So my last name McDonough is, okay. And then the nickname came in like grade 11, and it just stuck. Like somebody, for whatever reason, in high school, everybody calls each other by their last names. I think it's like a sports thing. Like I was on like the basketball team, and so because the last name is on your jersey or whatever, so everyone would call you by your last name, and so everyone would just call me McDonough, and then eventually it just got shortened to Dunna. And so that's just been like my name for forever. Like when my wife calls me Justin, it's the weirdest thing. Something is wrong. No,
you hear Justin and you say, "Hey, sweetie," out of the crowd. If you hear it, "Hey, Justin," "Hey, baby."
Yeah. What sports did you play, Dunna, in high school?
Sorry?
What sports did you play?
I was a basketball player mostly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was kind of the main thing. And earlier than that, it was like basketball, baseball, and lots of like skateboarding and snowboarding and that kind of stuff. But eventually there was so many things. I was one of those kids who just did like everything, and then eventually had to kind of whittle it down, and music kind of won out over everything else. Playing in my Christian punk rock band in
Did you have long hair? Did you have long hair?
I went through it all, man. I had long hair, I had cornrows, I had braids, I had a mohawk. I just do whatever I want with my hair all the time.
Dunna, that's funny because as you can see, I'm a musician as well for over 26 years. And I remember that I used to have very long hair that I was, doing all this crazy and making the hair and everything, and then do this styling that I was like him. You remember him, the singer of him.
Yeah,
and then eventually I have no hair, but that's a story for a different where you eventually go to the. But musicians, usually do games with their appearance, right?
Yeah, I'd say music in general is really influential in terms of like the same thing for me as well. Like what you wear, the clothes that you wear, like your hairstyles, like it affects all that stuff when you're growing up. It's kind of the only thing that really does.
Yeah. They're really connected, I think. Yeah. Like the music that you listen to and like your outward persona are very connected. It's funny because Jesse was on with you guys last, right? Mm-hmm. And he was saying over on Twitter, he was talking about how he didn't understand how somebody could be into fashion. And like I saw that, yeah. Yeah, and it was funny because there was like some really interesting stuff in the threads. Like it's just like he just hasn't necessarily made the same connection that a lot of people have, and I know he's a big fan of music and stuff, so I tried to as someone who also like doesn't really necessarily get the fashion thing. I've tried to get into it a couple of times. I tried to kind of like make the parallel of like, okay, like music and fashion, like it's pretty much the same thing, just like a different medium kind of thing, but like until you can talk to somebody who's really into it, it's tough. But something that I was thinking about afterwards is just what you were saying. Like it's so connected. Like everything, with music and fashion and your kind of music connects with the way you act and stuff like that, and the way you carry yourself and the people you hang out with, and even within, I think our kind of niche in the YouTube world, there's a lot of connection of like people approximately the same age and like the same demographic who listen to the same music, who all used to be musicians or still are, or in some case, or whatever it happens to be. Every once in a while on Twitter or Instagram or wherever, someone's like, "We need to start a YouTube band," and it's like there would be 97 people in that.
Yeah.
Dunna, you said something
be like
very
Arcade
interesting.
Fire.
You said something very interesting here, because I remember when I started my YouTube channel, I was saying that, hey, wait a minute, I know music, so I'm going to create my own music, and maybe I can implement that on my videos. and I can make also videos and photos. You know, how many people? Everyone here is going to be a filmmaker, probably, or a photographer. Then when I started meeting new persons, right, like when I was watching channels like yours, like Gerald, like Peter McKinnon, you know, like I saw that Jonathan Morrison. Everyone is a musician. Everyone is playing an instrument. Farouk, like with the discography and things like. And I was like, dude, what is going on here? Like all the musicians took up a camera and they started to change a career or something.
Well, as someone who works with musicians on a regular basis and is there to watch all of them try to make it as musicians, I'll tell you this was much easier. You know, even just to get to the point where you're kind of like making a living at it, like being a musician can be a really difficult thing, especially if you're trying to like do your own kind of music. Sure, you could make a living if you're like teaching music is a great way to do it. Like that's one of the reasons why I got into a music school, is because I was a music teacher for a long time. Other things are like cover bands or wedding bands, like those kinds of things. Like, sure, you know, those are great ways to kind of make a living and stuff. But if you're gonna like try and like write and record your own music or be like an original artist, that's a tough gig to really like make a living at, even just to get to the point where you're like, okay, I don't need something else on the back burner to make this work.
And you know what's funny, Dunna, that a lot of people say that, making a video, you just make a video and the hard part is maybe coloring or anything like that. And I was like, okay, dudes, if you ever try to make a song, first you need, after you finish recording, you need to mix it. And then you need to do the mastering. Mixing and mastering is something that if you're not an expert on that, like for me, it was always so frustrating and so hard. Like, I have the idea, I can record it, and then what? Why it doesn't sound like radio? Why it doesn't sound like...
So I actually have a question for both of you about mastering, because I was watching a video on it the other day, and I always hear this term, and I didn't do anything musical. So
I don't know, Dunna.
What does mastering mean? Like actually?
Okay, so mixing, you have all the tracks, right? So I've got a kick track, a snare top, snare bottom, hi-hat, I've got 9 tracks just for the drums alone and everything else. And so you've got individual control over everything. Now, mastering is once you've taken everything to just left and right, and you're going to apply things like more EQ, compression, and usually some kind of limiting onto the whole mix. So it is the master mix. And where that term comes from, EOS webcam utility died on us.
Recording limit.
There it is.
I was telling these guys, every 20 minutes I have to go back and press record. Sorry, go ahead, continue.
Yeah, that's okay.
Sorry, but we're Sony guys. Tausif, please continue.
There you go.
To be discussed.
Yeah, so the term mastering itself actually came from, like, you would run all of the tracks into a mixing board and you would have your individual faders and all that kind of stuff. And then the output of the mixing board would go through some kind of mastering console that would then go to your master record. So it would be literally a needle pulling the vinyl off of the record and making the grooves. And so you had to do that step in between so that you made sure that the needle didn't like poke a hole through the record, or it wasn't too quiet so that when people put on one record and then another one, yours was really quiet. And there was like lots of consideration for signal to noise ratio and that kind of stuff back in the day. But generally now it basically means applying effects to the whole track. So if I turn up the bass, I'm turning up the bass not only on the bass guitar and the kick drum that have lots of bass in them, but I'm also turning up the bass on the vocals, I'm turning up the bass on the guitars, I'm turning up the bass on everything, the whole track. And the goal is to get it kind of as loud and clear as possible without ruining the track, the sound of the track kind of thing. A real generalization. Mastering on its own is like an insane
science.
Art form. Yeah.
Sounds like
it's both art and science, I guess. But yeah, it's like, and a lot of like mix engineers aren't mastering engineers. A lot of people don't do both those jobs. There are really famous mix engineers who are famous for doing big records and stuff, and then there are mastering engineers who are also famous for doing big records and stuff, but just like kind of on a separate level, and lots of the big ones are specialized in those things. They don't do both. The same way that like once you get into like big Hollywood films, like people are colorists. You know, they're not necessarily like
they don't do it all.
They have a not like us job. Where it's like you film and you DP and you know
sound
you edit
engineers.
and you
sound engineers for all.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like it becomes this like specialized thing, but that's the idea. It's like, so if even on your video projects, like if you go to your track mixer and whatever editor you use and you put effects on the master bus, technically you're mastering.
Okay.
How can you tell that you have a Logic Pro user, right? The master bus. Right?
Not a Logic user.
Not a Logic.
You keep that away from me. I'm currently recording in Pro Tools as we speak.
Oh, okay. That's okay. Chris and Tausif, this is the professional guy, right? The Pro Tools. It's like when we say I'm a Final Cut Pro editor, and someone comes and says, I'm use Avid. AVID, you know, like this is a different.
Dude, I'm on Audacity because it's free.
There you go.
So you mean to say you don't do everything in GarageBand?
There you go. Yeah.
Go to
everybody always asks, but it's like they all do the same thing. All you got to do is learn how to use them.
For sure. Yeah. Dunna, have you ever thought about opening like a second channel that's just about music?
I've considered it. Yeah, I mean, the bottom line there is that I'm barely keeping up with my current channel. You know, I had to take a week off last week, not necessarily because you know, for there was a little bit of maybe like mental health stuff going on in there and I needed a little bit of a break, but part of it was just that I had like a sponsor video that I was working on and I just like it just wasn't going to be ready in time, and so I said, you know what, let's back this off for a second. So yeah, I've definitely considered it, but with the full-time YouTube and the part-time audio stuff going on, I think it would be too much. Maybe someday. I feel like that would be really cool. And actually, this week the Moment Invitational Film Festival is doing their workshop series. Tomorrow, I believe it starts. And they asked me to come in and do the lesson on audio mixing, music, and sound effects. So that'll be really cool. Yeah, I'm excited for people to get to see that. It's something that people ask me all the time. They're like, why don't you talk about audio? Like, you obviously know about it. And it's, again, like I did that on purpose. I kind of separated the two so that I could feel like I had some kind of separation in my life from my job and my fun part. And then I made my fun part into my second job. Yeah.
Which is interesting because I had no idea that you were this deep into it. Like you had a school and everything. It's pretty incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, I hit it well, I think.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is that I remember on your channel when because I'm following you from the early stages of your channel.
Yeah.
And, also,
man.
I need to
remember chatting with you early on. Yeah.
And also, I need to tell you that if you start a new channel on audio, it doesn't need to be one video every day, you know, for 1 year, and then burn out. You can take it slowly with audio. But I remember that when you made some vlogs that you went into your studio, and I remember watching that video and I was saying, dude, what does this guy have? You know, like I see all the equipment and the consoles and the mixing and the booths and the rooms, and I was like,
oh, you thought that was his house?
Yeah. No. Wow. He was mentioning that. Now let's go to the studio, right? And where he went, I remember that I wanted to ask you, why don't you record videos there? You know, because you were doing the whole home style and you had ready studio in there.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is that separation. I didn't want to be at the studio because as soon as I'm at the studio, then, you know, the front desk gets a call and I happen to be there. Someone's asking for me, and I feel obligated to then answer that call, even though I'm technically not working that day. The other part of it is that eventually I did hire some more people into the studio. So now when I'm not at the studio, someone else is generally using the studio. I've got other engineers and stuff that work there now too. So that's early on though. It was basically just I just needed some separation from the studio. Even though I think about that all the time, like standing in my tiny little 9x9 foot room with like there are just stands everywhere, and you cannot walk in this place without like tripping over something. And I'm just like, I have this big, beautiful, soundproof, acoustically treated studio that I could be using.
Use the microphone from here, and I'm not gonna have any echo, right?
yeah, no problem with noise in the room or anything like that. Yeah.
I don't know if you've actually considered this, but this is something I've seriously been thinking about, because I mean, I have a job as well, and I do freelance, plus I do YouTube. I've been seriously considering if getting just like an editor, to help out with the videos. That way you can probably just record, like, even if you had multiple channels or anything. Like, I started a finance channel too, and like you said, I put like 2 videos and I haven't done anything for like a month, right? Like, I just can't, it's not sustainable. But have you thought about getting like an editor, and do you think that would really help you out?
Yeah, I'm filling other positions first. And so, I mean, I think everyone thinks of the editor first. They think that like, yeah, that's the way to go. That's the first position that you can get rid of. But I really like the editing. So that's not the part. And I think that that's part of the charm of the channel. And I know Casey Neistat has talked about this too. He tried to get an editor and didn't like it because like part of his videos are built in the edit. And I feel like a lot of my videos are built in the edit. For example, the moment lesson that's going up this week here is I filmed it, but I didn't edit it. The moment guys edited it, and I'm very nervous about it because I've never had anybody else edit my stuff, and I have a certain way that I do things, and I've never had to necessarily write things out or explain things to anyone, like what I was thinking at the time. So I feel like that could be a process that eventually maybe I get to, although I'd probably still want to grade it myself because that's like my favorite part of the whole process. But the things that I really want to get at, and I've started working towards this, are like somebody to help me with dealing with brands and answering emails and scripts. It would be cool to have someone to like bounce ideas off of, but again, like that, the part of the process that is like creating the video, that's the part that I feel like I bring to the table.
Exactly. That's
the part
Dunna.
That's what Dunna did, I guess. And and so, but it's all the like kind of businessy side of things and keeping track of like analytics and that kind of stuff. That's where I feel like it would be cool to have a little bit of help. And I've been working with my friend Allie. She's been helping me out with that a little bit lately, and kind of being like a marketing manager. I call her my marketing gypsy because she lives in a van. It's not actually, she hates when I call it a van, but it's like a, whatever, one of those like
moving house. A moving house.
Yeah, it's a moving house.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but she's awesome, and she's been super helpful lately, and we're kind of doing like a bit of a trial on like her answering some of my brand emails. And looping her into the process and stuff, and it's been like insanely helpful, especially as I transitioned into being more full-time and the pressure that brings to be like, okay, so now I can't let those brand deals slip away because I don't have time to deal with them, or I need to make sure that I'm maintaining those relationships and somebody's checking in with those people, and I can be coming up with ideas and be like, hey, I've got this idea, can we pitch this to so and so? I think they'd be a really good fit for a sponsor on this video, that kind of thing. So, and it's been like, like I said, it's been super successful so far. So we're just wrapping on the first kind of start to finish deal that we did together. So I'm excited about that.
Congrats!
And it's
Congrats,
also the start
and
of
break a leg. Break a leg.
Yeah. I'm just waiting on approval right now. So we'll see.
That's always good. It's the stuff that takes the fun out of making the videos, right? Like, you can just focus. Like, when you first start, you can just make a video and it's just simple and you don't have to worry about all the other stuff. Like, it kind of brings you back to that.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. And that's really why I started the channel, was to have another creative outlet. And because I like making videos, I actually like the process of making videos. But as soon as you start having to do all that other stuff, which is inevitable if you want to make this into a thing, like somebody, I forget who it was that tweeted it the other day. It was like John Prosser or something like that. Prosser? I forget how to say his name. Anyway, somebody tweeted that it was like being a YouTuber is 80% answering emails, and I just I felt that so hard right here, and so yeah, it's really nice to instead of giving away something that I actually enjoy doing, like the editing process, start to delegate some of the other stuff, like updating the details in your descriptions or something like that. Like if I could find somebody to do that. Or recently I just reached out on Twitter and I was like, who wants to make a pile of playlists for me? And I just literally just hired a random person to go through my entire YouTube catalog.
That's
and
great.
Make a spreadsheet that could then become playlists. Now I have to go and make those playlists myself, but somebody else did the work of organizing it for me. And it's like those little things, especially once you're making a little bit of money at this, you can then start to think about the parts that you don't like and delegate those ones out first. So I guess that's advice for anyone else who might be getting close to that point where they're thinking like, oh, I should hire an editor. If you like editing, take that one off the table and start to think about all the things that you don't necessarily
amazing.
First.
That's amazing idea that you bring, because I think a lot of times creators forget why someone initially subscribed to their channel. And I understand that having an editor, for example, me, I would like to have a different A-roll if anyone is interested, because I don't like the A-rolls, but
Imagine if Emilio hired an editor. So counterproductive to the entire channel.
That would be fun. That would be fun. But eventually, I believe Elena someday will get over the channel. I've started with the reviews first. I give her the tech. I'm shooting B-roll, and eventually I say, do you want to talk to the people as well? Hey, welcome on this tutorial. I'm gonna do the tutorial. Don't worry. But just to switch things up.
I mean, that's another thing too that I don't think is really something people have thought of, or that I've seen a lot of anyway, is like kind of coming together with like a team of people. What is the name? There's Think Media or something like that. They've started to do it a little bit where it's like it's not just Sean Cannell anymore. It's like him and like a bunch of other people that that does like a bunch of different stuff and a bunch of different like almost series, I guess you could think of, and like each person kind of has their specific role. And I feel like that's the way that a lot of channels are going to start to diversify. You wonder what's going to happen. Like what's going to happen once I'm 45 and like I don't have the early 30s cool factor anymore.
You're not relevant.
And
not that 45 I think I'm still pretty young, Dunna.
Not that I think I have much of a cool factor as it is, but what happens once you hit that point where you're so far out of the young people's game.
We're boomers. Say we're boomers. Don't embrace it.
Boomers are like I feel like my dad is a boomer. Like that's the next generation. I'm millennial through and through, 100%.
Yeah, millennials were not boom, because I remember I had a conversation with a girl. She was 18, and she was like, "Emilio, you're a boomer." I was like, "Am I? Like, am I too old right now?"
Definitely a millennial.
It's a misuse of the term, and as the grumpy older generation, I feel like that we get to say that it's because of their young ignorance that they misuse the term.
Now, you mentioned something very nice. You mentioned how creators can combine their powers, and what I thought very fast in my mind is YouTube original series. I'm pitching it right now. I don't know if anyone is going to hear it. A YouTube original series.
Are you listening?
Yeah, YouTube original series that different creators from different aspects, or combining as a group, they're going to make a series that it's going to last, let's say, for creators or photographers, videographers, musicians. Something like how Marcus Brownlee did for the Red
Tech one. Yeah,
to have the creators and content creators all together. Because I think also with this period with COVID that we lost all the opportunity to be together in a conference, in in an event. After all these things ends, we're gonna need to be together. I believe that we're gonna have the need of drinking beers, going for coffee, being with our cameras, chats, and this is something that I think will bring a lot to the table, especially for YouTube. What's your opinion?
I agree to a certain degree, but I also feel like, I don't know, me personally, I don't know about, like, I'd love to hear you guys as well. I feel like I've also changed as a person. I like being alone a little bit more now, just to, like, be with my thoughts and, like, just work on my own sometimes. I don't know. Do you guys feel that way as well?
Who got you, Tausif? Bring our friends back. Who are you?
I'm kind of the same. I always worked on my own. I always have. So when COVID hit for me, it's like, it doesn't really make any difference in terms of my workflow. I would say I'm now excited to get out there and start kind of going and hanging out with people and making videos with people again. I didn't really get a taste of it before, and now I really want to do it, being stuck inside for all this time. But that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I'm a pretty introverted person to start with, and then this happened, and it kind of just like it there are lots of memes and stuff out there about it, but it's like this roller coaster of, like, at first I was like, I am in my prime.
Same.
This is perfect. I don't have to see anybody anymore. This is amazing. and then you do, like, even as an introverted person, you miss being able to hang out with people. And on the flip side of that, I definitely have become more connected with certain people, and I've done more things like this than I was doing before, and I've had video chats with people who, most of my friends don't live in the city that I live in, and for whatever reason, being not able to physically see them, even though I never physically saw them before anyway, meant that all of a sudden I was doing more, FaceTime chatting and stuff with them too, just because that's what everyone was doing. Everyone was trying to make an effort to connect with those people. But it's like, if all your friends are far away, basically I got more connection than I was getting before anyway. So it's but then there's the flip side of that, where after an extended period of time of not seeing people, I do think that it just like affects you one way or another, even if you're not a super social person, or you don't like hang out with a big group of friends or anything like that. There are definitely some ups and downs to it.
Everyone's going to be so awkward when people start meeting up for the first time. They're just going to be like, oh,
I'm going to hug you all.
What do
I'm
we
going to
say?
hug you all. I'm a hugger. I'm Greek. I'm European. I miss that. I miss, seeing, for example, friends that we go out for with masks for exercising and stuff. And we might see a friend and say, hey, man, what's up? And they hand so we can do it. Boom. Where we used to, hey man, hugging, kisses, the Greek way. Where you've been,
right
and
now it's
we're
like you dap it, and then you get out your hand sanitizer.
Like, this is something that scares me about the near future, how it's gonna be.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's I think that everyone has a different level of that kind of human physical connection and stuff like that. And I think that everybody's gone through their own roller coaster of like some people that maybe were social found a little bit of peace in that first period, and then eventually, like, when it became this thing that was like, when it all started, I think there were a lot of people who were like, this is going to be it's going to be 2 weeks and they'll figure it out.
And we need to do that. Exactly. We need to do that so we can be better for the whole world. Like, for example, we, Dunna, here in Greece, we are now almost 6 months that we have a curfew, that we're not allowed to go. And, it's getting a little bit on the limits of, for example, me, I want to get the camera and do a video outside. I can't. I need to fill out different paperwork that I'm allowed to go. Why? For what reason? I need to give that to the government and stuff like that. That you think to yourself, is this freedom? Is this still freedom? Yeah. What are we living right now? And I believe this is the worst thing, that we don't have the freedom that we used to have. But it's the good thing that we had the time to value things that we didn't give so much attention before. Like, I can get the camera and do a video today, or I'm gonna do it a day after. And now you say, can I?
I think that there's like there is always going to be value in the change of things. Like any time that you can shake up the entire system like that, you're going to learn a lot from it regardless. Like we all get in our in our routines, and every day kind of looks at least relatively similar. Even if, like, let's say you've got a week where there are some like interesting projects or something coming up, it's like generally kind of how your day to day is going to go. And when you shake up the whole system like this, you're going to learn stuff not only about how the world works, but about the people that are around you, as well as about yourself. And I think that that's something that like a lot of people are finding. And there's I just learned everything from memes apparently, but there are lots of memes about people like, like learning from this whole situation, learning about themselves and learning things that maybe they didn't know about themselves, and having to learning their limits and learning, more about what they actually want. Lots of people, what they call the COVID pivot, where it's like this all happens, they get thrust outside of their comfort zone, and then they realize what's really important to them. And so then they have the opportunity to go pursue that, because it's like, well, if things are going to be crappy anyway, I might as well go try and chase this thing that is, the thing that I actually want. And so people are moving, or they're changing jobs, or they're, making all these big changes, because they've really kind of found out what's important to them, because they've been forced to, because there was no other option basically. And I think that that's, I guess a little bit of bright side looking as far as all the horrible things that are happening. But yeah.
So a question for you then, in terms of that, did that play any part in your decision to switch from being in a music studio to go on YouTube?
As part of it. It was kind of coming to that point anyway. Like I was getting to the point where I was on salary with the music studio. So, and it's, I was getting to the point where YouTube was essentially kind of keeping pace financially with what I was making there. So it was like this option that was there for me. And then when COVID hit and things started to slow down in the studio, and the business itself was able to benefit from having to pay out less. So I basically went to an hourly type of thing where I'm just getting paid now for specifically for the projects that I take on. It also allows me to be a little bit more picky with the projects that I was taking on, because what I was finding is that that whole thing where you take something you really love and you make it your job, and then you answer to clients about it, and it was like none of the projects felt like they were necessarily mine, and I was having to, especially because finances were difficult in a hard time, I was having to take on everything that walked through the door, regardless of whether I was excited about it or not. And like that was cool for me in the first 3 years that we were open. But then, I got nominated for a Juno. I have like a bunch of different artists who I really like working with, and I feel like I had broken past that point. Yep. And then to be thrust back into it, and I just kind of was like, this isn't working for me. So my business partner and I basically sat down and had this conversation, and it was like, okay, this is going to be good for my mental health if I can kind of be a little bit more picky about the projects that I take on, and it will be good for the business if I am maybe working a little bit less, because then there will be less, paying out to me.
Use the resources elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly. So that we can, like pay our teachers and stuff like that as well. Like that, make sure that everybody else is taken care of too. And I have this option, I have this YouTube thing that can sustain me, whereas a lot of the other people, like that, it's obviously their only job, our front desk staff and that kind of stuff. So it was like it was like me taking one for the team, but not really, because I already had this other thing.
It's a win-win.
It was like the transition that kind of made sense.
Curious, how has that had an impact on your actual like your work ethic or anything like that? Because I know some of us here are thinking about it, or are in the process, or have already made that jump to full-time YouTube. For example, I'll give you an example. With me, I'm on pat leave right now, and my intention was like, what, I'm going to work on this like it was like, my full-time thing, because, eventually I want to make that transition. And I found that there's few days, like actually more often than not, I'll wait. I was thinking before I started this that I have crazy motivation. I'll wake up every day, I'm going to be firing 3 videos every week. And like, I got into it and I'm like, man, like there's days where I just don't want to do anything. And now this is like what this is going to contribute to like my family and everything. So how, like, have you had those days, and like how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, that I mentioned a little while ago that I took a week off there, and that was like a big portion of it. Is like I had this video that I needed to be working on, you know, because I have agreements and that kind of stuff, and I just didn't have the motivation to do it, and I was trying to force myself through it, and it wasn't like there was a little bit of leeway, a little bit of time, and so it was like either I could whip up something else, or I could take the time off and relax a little bit. And ideally you would have some kind of safety net where you've got like a video in the bank that you can put up. If you're someone like me and you put out a weekly video and you try to stick to that as best as you can. But like sometimes you got to just know when to call it and when to take that little bit of time off. And luckily, once you get YouTube going, and if you've diversified your income enough, a week off probably isn't going to make a difference, because it's all it's like 90% passive income. It's not like you post that video and all of a sudden get an influx of $1,000 or whatever, with the exception of sponsored videos, of course, where that's exactly how it works. But
also with an exception of 100,000 sponsorship video, right? Like, I believe you're getting the willingness. It's gonna be much easier.
Yeah. So I mean, but yeah, it's there are definitely those weeks, and I think the switch to my current situation where it's like more full-time YouTube and less of the audio stuff, I thought was gonna make a big difference to my, like, oh, now I'm going to have all this time and I can add all these things. And I started a Patreon, and really what happened is I improved my videos. I didn't release any more videos, but I spent more time on the videos that I had. That was, I think, the biggest difference. And then I really quickly found out that I took on too much, because the as much as like I have more time now to do YouTube and stuff like that, I was already skimming by a lot of things. So now I'm able to like do more of those things, but I tried to like add more on top of that. And I think that was ambitious of me, and I didn't have it figured out yet what this looked like, and so I think it was a little too ambitious for me to necessarily take on everything all at once. That being said, like things like the Patreon are going great, and like the crew that's over there is awesome, and it's been a lot of fun, but it's another thing to keep track of. And I think what I would suggest is that if you're going to make that transition to full-time or more full-time or whatever it happens to be, first see how that affects your current workload. You know, like, does that give you a little extra time to relax? Or if you're like me, does that mean that you're going to spend that little bit of extra time making sure that the video's 10 minutes instead of 12? You know, are you trimming off the fat more instead of just being like, okay, this one's done, like shoot it out the door, like let's go kind of thing, which is like, I think what I was having to do sometimes. It's like Sunday night, I've got to have a video out Monday morning. And so wherever I'm at, like that's what's going out kind of thing. So it's basically taken that off, but if you add too much to it on top of that, it gets to be overwhelming really quickly. Yeah.
That was exactly the same for me. Like everything you just said there, I went in with the intention of like, okay, now I can do more quantity over the quality. And then you quickly realize that, well, it takes so much to make a video already. Now I'm just literally doubling that. So just spend the time on those tiny little refinements. And that made so much more of a difference. And like, as you said, like one video really doesn't bring you any extra income. It's the older videos that are really bringing you the income, right? Like the affiliate sales, like the videos that are continuing to grow. Jesse called them green videos last week, and that makes sense. Like they're not like relevant for a week. They're timeless. That's so true.
Evergreen.
What you said.
That's
Evergreen. That was it. Yeah,
a classic thing that, you know, in all the like Roberto Blake and Daryl Eves and all those the YouTube gurus always talk about evergreen videos, and it's this interesting balance too, because like like lens reviews and stuff like that are not necessarily evergreen videos, because a lens or a camera body, actually that's probably a better example as a camera body, because they're going to be like replaced every couple of years. It's like you're going to get a couple of years max out of it, and like news stories are even less evergreen and that kind of thing. But so it's interesting to try and like find that balance of playing the like, okay, I need to be relevant right now, but I also want to try and make videos that are going to last and be those evergreen videos. And being
Speaking
okay
of camera
with
bodies.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah,
I was going to say,
what are you shooting on right now?
What am I shooting on? This is the A7S III.
Okay.
With the 24 millimeter f2.8, the new tiny little guy.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Yeah.
Is this nice? Is this
Cinetone.
good? Is this good? The 24?
I don't know. This is literally the first thing I've ever shot on it.
Okay.
So I was taking a chance for you guys.
Okay, so your
They
kit
look
right
good
now,
here.
what would your perfect kit be? And I think we talked about this on Twitter day before yesterday or something like that. But if you had a choice, 2 cameras, 2 lenses, mic, go.
A7S III and an A1.
Okay.
I get to pick whatever I want, right?
Yeah,
So,
I'm not
okay.
paying for
So-
that, right?
So the camera that I'm shooting on now, and then this camera, and then 2 lenses, probably the Sigma 24 to 70 and the
Everyone.
13,
Everyone is
16 to 35 G Master.
Okay.
What is so
Good-
special
good
on
choices.
24 to 70 Sigma that everyone is talking about this lens?
Have you used it?
No.
Then you don't understand until you use it.
Yeah.
It's just got a look, and it's such a good focal range. There's
Yeah.
nothing about it really that's bad, other than it doesn't have IS. But if you have the A7S III, then
You don't need it.
you don't need it anyway. And
The
it's a good
autofocus,
price.
focus breathing.
No focus breathing.
No
Actually,
issues.
the only other issue people say is the dust, but it's like I never really see it as an issue, to be honest.
Because me, for example, when I got the 24 1.4, the G Master on the A7S III, I was very frustrated from the focus breathing on the autofocus on the background elements. When you have, for example, this light, I was moving a little bit and it goes like doop, 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 like that. And I was like, dude, why? It's Sony, it's G Master. So it's the same scenario with the 2470 Sigma?
no, I've
No,
never
the
had
focus
issues.
breathing is not bad at all. I mean, there's anytime you're grabbing like photography lenses and stuff like that, like focus breathing isn't necessarily their big focus, pun intended, when they make those things. That being said, like obviously, like they get that these are now, they're not just photography lenses, they're hybrid lenses. But I think sometimes like with the 24-1.4, like the crispiness on that thing, the sharpness on it is insane. Like the image quality of it is insane. So they always have to make trade-offs, right? It's like, can we get insane image quality and give up a little bit of that? I was thinking about that yesterday though. I feel like I'm getting more and more sensitive to the little micro shifts in autofocus, regardless of like whether it's like focus breathing or anything like that. But like, you know, if I'm doing a slider shot and I like on a product and I see the little shifting and stuff, and I'm like, I need a focus puller. Maybe that's the next person I'll hire.
Thank you, because I was
Just
talking
go
with
manual
Lee.
lenses.
I was talking with Lee Zavitz, and he told me I have a very serious OCD problem, and that I need to go with manual and not autofocus when I'm doing product, right? Because this is going to be always there. And I was like, why did I get there? The A7S III, if I'm going to use it on manual. Like, what's the point?
So what do you have your set, like your, what's it called, the focus speed? Like just try like putting it down real low. That might be what your issue is.
I've tried it all over the place.
Yeah. Everything.
Yeah.
It's
not like working. when it's really slow, I find that it's annoying for not grabbing focus where I want it to grab focus, and then when
Finally,
it's, you know,
Dunna.
Generally when it's in the middle, I find that that's like the happy medium. Like if I'm doing some vloggy stuff, like it doesn't matter too much. Like things can be completely out of focus basically, and as long as you can still tell what's in the frame, you're okay. But like, you know, if I'm doing a shot like this and there's like this tiny little movement and like it keeps coming in and out and it's not like nice and smooth. Whereas if I just threw this in manual focus right now,
by the
these
way,
movements would look natural.
Right
you
now,
know, if
by
I
the
went
way,
in and out of focus.
Dunna, right now, by the way, this lens doesn't do that. Like I see the light that you have right now on the back. You're moving forward and backward. It doesn't do this shifting.
Yeah.
So
honestly, Emilio, I personally haven't seen that issue with like when I had the A7S III or anything like that. Even with product shots, like for the most part, it sticks onto it like really well. And what I do just in case, I still just touch the product, and once you get that box around it, like it's pretty sticky.
It's the lens. It's the lens that causes the problem.
It's probably the lens for you.
Yeah. It's so, on the G Master.
So how's mine then? Have you been noticing any issues? Because I'm at f1.4 on the 24 right now.
Go move forward. Yeah, there you go. You see that, Dunna? This is right.
Yeah.
Bloop, 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 bloop.
Yeah, you see it?
This.
Totally.
So I'm looking at the screen. I just see the box.
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't
we're
see.
Not
I
crazy,
don't see
Dunna. We're not crazy,
I don't
man.
see either. No.
Yes.
Yeah. No,
I think
if you watch your softbox with the grid on it, that's where I'm really noticing it. Any kind of light source in the background is where you'll really notice it.
Yeah.
And for people who who listen to us right now, if you listen to Apple Podcast, go subscribe and hit a 5-star review. And for those who don't understand what we're talking about, we have a video version as well on YouTube. So you can go watch on the video version to see what is all the back and forth and two that we're talking on the backgrounds.
Dunna, curious, why not the FX3 over the A7S III?
Because the A7S III came out first.
Okay, fair.
Sorry,
If you didn't have it.
those two are pretty much interchangeable. Actually, I really want to get the FX3. It's this weird thing where like I need to have a photo camera and a video camera, and I already own the A7S III, so it feels unnecessary to go through the process of like selling the A7S III at a loss and getting the FX3, even though that technically I would love to have like the new body and the extra heat dissipation and the cageless design. Like that all sounds awesome to me, and the handle with the XLR plugins, I want it real bad. But like the process of going through to like sell at a loss and then buy that one is like.
Doesn't make sense.
Are you going for the A7
that much of a difference?
A7 IV for photography?
The minute the A7 IV comes out, I mean, I guess depending if it's just like a dud, if it's like a lemon, then no. But like if it has what I assume it's going to have, which is basically everything the A7S and A1, like all the kind of newer features that they're putting in, even if they don't go like I don't need 4K 120, like that was a bonus.
I think
4K
they'll go 60.
4K 60 is pretty cool. But just like 10-bit, honestly, if they just gave me a firmware update and they made me pay $500 for it on my A7 III with 10-bit video, I would like be all over it so fast.
crop mode and 24 megapixel at least. That's it.
Yeah, it's like I need that hybrid camera, and the A1 is killer, but it's just so
Very
overboard and so expensive. Yeah, like there's no way. This combo right here, the A1 with the 50 millimeter f1.2 costs more than my car did.
Yeah.
Like this body in Canada is what, like 9,000, something like that.
Wow,
it's ridiculous.
Is that yours, or do you have that on loan?
This is a loaner. Yeah.
Okay.
I've got both the 50 millimeter f1.2 and the A1 are on loan, as well as the 3 little ones, and everything I have is on loan. I've got
Dunna, how is working with
fancy
companies?
set of lenses up here, but I don't own any of them.
How is it working with companies like Sony for loaners, for gear reviews, for if there are any agreements, any things, any pressure? Because a lot of people that hear us right now, they might say, "Oh, I would like to have the A1 as well and give it a review." So, what do you say about the whole process and your experience so far?
I've had a pretty good experience with most companies. Sigma's been really great. Sony's been really great. Tamron is someone who I'm working with now that's more of a new thing, and their rep reached out to me, and she's really awesome. And I don't know, it's like those kind of companies, specifically where it's like the big camera companies and stuff, it's mostly loaners, so you sign some kind of an agreement where like you break it, you buy it kind of thing, and then they send you it out, and you get it for sometimes it's 2 weeks, sometimes it's 3 weeks. They've also been really relaxed about extending that. Usually it's just like an email like, hey, can I hold on to this for another week? Like I only release one video a week, so as compared to some other channels that are putting out a lot more content, it's like if I have 5 things on the burners and they send me a loaner, I might not get to it for 2 or 3 weeks. So if there's only 2 weeks to deal with it, it's a bit tough. And then as far as like, I think what people see is like the embargo lifts and everybody drop like 900 videos in a day. And like, I feel like people get annoyed about that way too much. It's just like, just don't go on YouTube then. If you go on and you see one of those, like wait a week, like go watch something else if you don't want to watch it. Nobody's forcing you. But yeah, I think companies that are doing it well don't really put a lot of pressure. Sony's great for that. Like I've never really felt any pressure to make a video when they sent me stuff. If they happen to be, you know, hit me up for that one thing and they get it to me beforehand, like they say like, hey, here's the embargo date, like, and maybe they'll give a little nudge. Like I think I got an email from Sony the day before the little guys, the compact lenses came out, that was just like a, hey, like a little reminder, like if you're gonna post a video, like tomorrow's the embargo date. But there wasn't really like, I've definitely never had what I felt like was any backlash for not hitting the embargo date. And I honestly don't put a lot of stock in like trying to nail it for the embargo date. I would much rather make a great video that I think is, you know, better than all the other videos that are out there. And sometimes that's kind of how I approach it too. Sometimes I'll miss the embargo date so I can watch everybody else's videos and figure out what they missed, you know, and make a video that stands out against them. And I made a video recently, a couple months ago now, that was about my process of making review videos. And that was kind of one of the things that I said is like, there's really, I don't think there's any shame in going and watching a bunch of review videos. Like if I wanted to review my 2013 Kia Sorento, it's like I could go watch 900 other videos on the 2013 Kia Sorento, write down the things that I liked, write down the things that I didn't, and then just make my video based on those. It'll still be me, it'll still have my personality. Really, we're just talking about specs and then my opinion on it. So, you know, it's even if I do my research that way, I'm not stealing anything. I think people feel like they would be stealing when it's like, as long as you don't like verbatim repeat what somebody else is saying just because
transcribe.
yeah, like you don't want to do that. But and that's how I got my start with reviews. Actually, was I wanted to do the review on the Sigma 16mm APS-C lens that everybody loved and was fairly new at the time, and I went and watched like 5 or 6 videos on that, like Jason Vong and like all the classic Sony people a couple of years ago, and I literally had a sheet and I took notes and I said, here's what I liked from this video, here's what I thought they could have done better, and then I just made my video based on that, and that's one of my most popular videos. I should probably do more of that. I wing it way too much now because I'm trying to hit my weekly deadline.
I have a question for you about that, because it's something that I've done. How do you feel about videos that did really well in the past redoing it? Like now, what's your opinions about it? If it's like that Sigma 16mm, like you say, you still have that lens. Could you do another review on it 2 years later, or would you do another review on it 2 years later?
I feel like I would feel weird about that.
Yeah.
Like I would feel, I don't know.
Like if your opinions changed.
I guess it depends on the product mostly. Because like if it's something like or if I had a big opinion change, or if there's a newer product that then there is to like compare against it or something like that, you know, like I feel like then that would be okay. But if it was just like I want to hit the YouTube algorithm, you know? And there are lots of people who do that. Like there's like a strategy where it's like a year later remake a popular video. And like some people will try and make it like a continuance of the previous one, or like do a like A7 III 2 years later or whatever, like that kind of thing. And it's like they just say the same thing they said 2 years ago because it's still the same camera it was 2 years ago. But maybe they can compare it to the newer ones. So it's, I don't know. I feel like in most situations, I feel weird about it, mostly just because I don't like to repeat myself like that. I find that really difficult.
I feel like there is some added value, Dunna. Like if you were to talk about, let's say, the Sigma now in context of like a whole bunch of new things that have come out, right? In context of that, I think there is some like added value there. But for example, let's say like, for example, your most popular video, I think, is like the Instagram one, like extending it, like having like multiple screens. Like if you were to do that, that wouldn't really make sense because it's the same exact thing, right?
Yeah.
But with this, like you have new context.
Yeah, actually, funny thing, I did that with that video. I took a look at what my most popular video was, and I said, okay, how can I make like more like a sequel than anything? And so recently, like just last month or something, I made one that was a similar thing with the swipeable thing, but it was like a collage because that's become like a popular thing on Instagram. And I literally tried to be like, okay, I'm going to use the same tags. I'm going to try and use some of the same words in the title and see if I can kind of tag
Replicate
this
it.
one along to that original video. And it kind of flopped so far. But that being said, the original video wasn't a popular video to start with. The week that I uploaded it, the month that I uploaded it, it didn't take off. It was like 6 months later, all of a sudden I started seeing comments coming in on this video, and I was like, what is going on with this video? And it was up from like 5K views up to like 80K or something like that. And I was like, whoa, where did this come from? And now it's like, I think it's got to be almost at 1 million views at this point, which will be...
What do you think happens that? Why do you think
bonkers.
this happens with... Do you have any idea of why this might happen? Like old videos suddenly go up.
I think that there's like there's a plethora of things that could happen, but I think usually it's just tied to search. I think that usually what happens is that something will come up where someone famous probably will start to do swiping things on Instagram, and then a bunch of people start searching for it, and then if you made the right video, if you made a great video on that topic, then it will come out of the hands of search. So they'll show yours. YouTube is smart enough to know when people like videos. And so if your video pops up enough times and people are showing interest in it, YouTube will start showing it more and more and more and more, and until it's no longer a search thing. And now it's just like YouTube is like, hey, people were liking this video regardless of whether people are searching for it anymore. Like, you might enjoy this. So it kind of like, it's almost this like weird cycle of like, it gets searched, people like it, YouTube serves it. It gets searched, people like it, YouTube search it. You know, like it's this kind of cyclical thing, I think.
Like give the people what they want kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
What should we expect from Dunna in the near future and his channel?
Oh my goodness. I'm starting a new series called Can Dunna Do It? I announced this a little while ago, where basically I've got a page on my website, dunnadidit.com/challenge. And if you go there, you can leave me a challenge, a photography or videography challenge that you want me to try and take on. And my first episode from that series is going to be coming up hopefully next week. If it's got a sponsor on it, so I'm waiting for approval. But it's pretty much done at this point, so that's exciting.
Is that the
Patreon?
Is that the Queen's Gambit one?
The Queen's Gambit one, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's...
We're going to have a link in the description of the podcast and the video for this section on the website, first of all, and we can't wait to see the result.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, and then, I mean, I've got lots of stuff on the ideas list, but just more videos for now, I think, and keeping up with the Patreon thing, and yeah, just trying to figure out what this whole life is about.
That's a huge
small
question.
task.
Such a good way to put it.
What are we doing here?
What
Why
is-
are we here?
What is the point? Yeah.
Well, Dunna, we won't waste any more of your time. We really appreciate you coming on today. It's been
Thank you
just
so
over
much.
an hour. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, guys. Definitely not a waste at all. It was fun to catch up with you guys.
Of course, you too.
Yeah, really appreciate chatting
Stay
with you.
safe and creative.
Also, you heard it here first, but we're thinking about, maybe getting a whole bunch of guys together once things clear up and stuff. So we're all local, so maybe we can
I'm not
get
local.
something going. You're going to fly down, Emilio.
It probably takes as long for Dunna to fly here as it does for you to fly here.
Yeah, you
No
know,
word of a
Dunna,
lie.
they're
That's
telling
true.
me all the time, right? We started this podcast. They bring always people from Canada right now. It's like they tell me,
That's true.
when are you gonna make the move, man? Like, yeah.
I was like when I first met Chris. Actually, I was in Toronto with a couple of buddies from the UK, and they always bugged me about being the local. And it's like I live like it was like a 4-hour flight for me to
That's
get to
true.
Toronto. Like
Oh,
I don't know what's around.
Okay.
Canada's a
we
big
should probably
place.
fly
Emilio.
out there because there's so much more to do there,
Yeah,
like
that's
Banff
true.
and everything. Yeah, that would be nice.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you,
Dunna,
Dunna.
and keep
All right, fellas.
embracing
Sure.
us with all the amazing content that you do every day.
You got it.
Stay
Thanks,
safe.
Dunna.
Cheers, fellas.
Take care, brother.
Peace.